go. All right. So we are going to start and finish chapter 11 today. We're going to talk about puberties and puberty's development and cognitive and physical development and so on and so forth. Okay. No class on Friday. All right. Physical and cognitive development in adolescence. The phases of adolescence. We have, well, tribal and village societies, they just have a brief adolescence. Like, yeah, you're in, you're out, done. Where industrialized nations, we have extended adolescence and we do it in three phases. Early adolescence, 11 to 14, rapid pubertal change. Middle adolescence, 14 to 16, where puberty is nearly complete. And then late adolescence, 16 to 18 years old, where we start to look like fully formed adults and we start to anticipate adult roles. All hormones. Overall body growth is due to growth hormone and thyroxine. Sexual maturation. Girls dependent on estrogen and adrenal androgens from the adrenal gland. Boys, the androgens from the testes, especially testosterone. For both sexes, estrogens are combined with androgens, and this will contribute to gains in bone density. We see some sex differences in adolescent body growth. Boys, they'll start puberty at about 12 and a half average. Girls, about 10 years of age. What happens to boys? Broader shoulders, longer legs. Girls, widening of the hips. For boys, when it comes to muscle or fat deposits, they gain more muscle. They develop more aerobic efficiency. Girls, fat deposits. When it comes to motor development and physical activity, girls, their gain is slow and levels off by the age of 14. Boys will show dramatic spurt in strength, speed, and endurance throughout the teenage years. Regular sports and exercise for both sexes will improve motor performance, cognitive and social development, physical and mental health. Performance enhancing drugs are also used and linked to serious side effects like cancer. Don't do it. Sexual maturation. Now, the primary sex characteristics are the things that you are born with: your vagina, your penis, your testicles, and your ovaries, and your uterus, and your fallopian tubes, and your vas, and all that stuff. So, the things that you need to reproduce, to make more of you. Secondary sex characteristics, these are the ones that rear their ugly heads when we are puberty. And their voice deepens, breasts grow, widening of the hips, enlarging of the penis and the scrotum, the uh, the vulva, the female external genitalia starts to look different. Um, the breasts develop in females, facial hair, uh, armpit hair, uh, pubic hair, everything's just a big mess, right? Now, there are some individual differences when it comes to the timing of puberty. Heredity will influence it, our nutrition, how much we exercise, and the body fat as a result, socioeconomic status. So, what kind of foods do you eat? How often do you eat? Your ethnicity also has an impact. Developing versus industrialized countries, that has an impact. And early family experiences can also speed up or delay puberty. So, what happens to the brain, right? So, during puberty, we have this expansion of these connections that are being made from neurons to neurons, right? So, it supports gains in executive function, reasoning, problem solving, decision making. The cognitive control network, however, is still developing. And this is contributing to our inhibition, right? So, don't be so impulsive. Our ability to plan ahead, to delay gratification. These things are not fully mature. But our changes in emotional and social networks in our brain are outpacing the development of our cognitive control network. That results in many self regulation difficulties. At this age, we have stronger responses to excitatory neurotransmitters, right? So we have an increased reactivity to stress and to pleasurable and social stimuli. Right? So we have an unchecked drive for novelty. I need something new. I need something exciting. Our sleep changes, our sleep patterns change. We still need about 9 hours, but we just stay up later and get up later. Why? The puberty influences the brain, the regulation, the sleep. We also got TVs and our PlayStations and our Xboxes and our Nintendo Switches and the Switch lights and all that stuff. So the screen media, and we're also talking on the phone. Remember when you were younger and you talk on the phone with your lover or your best friend? You're like, oh my god,
In
I don't
high
let you go.
school, in
Yeah,
high school, I remember it was a big controversy. Like we would always do this in like English when we talked about debates. We'd be like, should school time start later because kids stay up later?
yeah. And it's funny because if you look at the high schools, their day starts later than the primary schools. The grade schools. So they are doing it, but maybe just not enough. Yeah. So our lack of sleep, though, if we do have a lack of sleep, impairs executive function, cognitive and emotional self-regulation, can lead to a reduced school achievement, an increase in anxiety, depression, high risk behaviors. So our reactions to puberty change depends on prior knowledge. How much do you know? How much are you expecting things to be changing? How well your family supports you? What are the cultural attitudes about these changes you're going through? There are mixed feelings in response to menarche, which is a female's first period, and spermarche, which is a male's first ejaculation with sperm present. Boys get less social support, so they'll turn to reading material or to websites. Girls, they're like, let's sit down. We need to talk about periods. We need to talk about the menstrual cycle. We need to talk about how you care for your body and so on and so forth. But we do see cats walking across Uten's screen. We do see some generational improvements, though. Parents today are more open about puberty, so the youths are more informed. Some cultures even celebrate it. The quinceañera, the bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah. Right? They see puberty as a significant milestone. Uh-oh, adolescent moodiness. My dad and I could not get along. Couldn't get along. This is linked to more negative life events. We're also more emotionally reactive to our life events. The moods of younger adolescents are less stable. When we're around our friends, we're like, this is everything to me. I am so happy playing video games and talking with my friends and hanging out with my friends. But as soon as you're in an adult structured setting, you're like, I hate my life. I don't want to be here. I don't like it's boring me. Right. Also, our moods are influenced by our weekend expectations. If we expect, a good, happy, fun weekend, then we'll probably be in a better mood during the week. Something to look forward to. The parent child relationship, we do see a rise in conflict, but it has an adaptive value. It prepares for the psychological distancing. So, when there's these conflicts, this turmoil, mom and dad start to go, all right, maybe I like you a little bit less. It won't hurt so bad when you go away. I don't know. There are different views of adolescent readiness for responsibility as well, right? So, the adolescent might be like, I'm old enough to stay out later, right? And your mom or your dad goes, good. Then you're old enough to mow the lawn every weekend too. You're like, well, wait a minute, I'm not that responsible. So most conflict is mild and it subsides over time. It's balanced by affection and support from your parents. So positive problem solving obviously is going to help reduce conflict. The consequences of pubertal timing when we get the nasty puberty has an impact, and it's inverse too. So girls who have their period younger, they are often unpopular, withdrawn, low in confidence, less positive body image. They exhibit more deviant behavior and at their risk for lasting difficulties more often than later, right? So girls late maturing seem to be more popular, sociable, school leaders, and have a positive body image. Now it's the reverse for boys, right? Early maturing boys, they are popular. They're athletic stars, leaders. They have a more positive body image. They're viewed as well adjusted and what's some of this? Well adjusted, but they report psychological stress, depressed moods, and more deviant behavior. Late maturing boys have these emotional difficulties. So, what are some factors that influence pubertal timing? Our cultural ideals of physical attractiveness. Uh, these are the factors influencing pubertal timing effects. Sorry. Uh, Fitting in with the peers' physical maturity, right? Girls, they're hanging out with their friends, and so's got her period, so and so's got her period. I haven't gotten my period. I'm not, whatever. So and so's got, pubic hair, and I've seen, whatever, whatever, and so on. So I remember the reason why I say that is because I remember when I was younger and I wrestled, and I hit puberty late, and I'm grateful for it because um, the later you hit puberty, the taller you are, and I come from a very short family, right? So I'm actually the tallest in my family. As sad as that is, I'm not even 5'10". But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, so I remember when I used to wrestle, right? I played basketball for whatever, I don't know, sixth grade, seventh grade, and then my brother was like, "You should try wrestling. Wrestling is so much more fun." I'm like, all right, fine. So I tried wrestling, and I didn't hit puberty yet. So here, and when you wrestle, you go to practice. They all take showers, no shame. They're just buck naked, right? And I remember like looking and thinking, "Oh my god, I was embarrassed because I had no pubic hair. Their penises were all monstrous compared to mine. I was totally, totally embarrassed. Now that's kind of personal, but I don't care. It's in the past. I don't care now. But that whole body image, right? That whole fitting in with the peers' physical maturity was a thing for me. It made me feel very subconscious. All right. So our body image strongly predicts our self-esteem. Contexts that increase the risk of deviant peer associations and behaviors. You see that these deviant peer associations and behaviors, whatever, in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. And if there's harsh and consistent parenting, that'll also increase the risk of deviant behavior. Nutrition in adolescence, right? Our nutritional requirements increase, right? Poor diets are common, and these are often the case where they will skip breakfast or they're eating more fast foods. They become more iron or vitamin mineral deficient. And if we just eat as a family, it's associated with a healthier diet. Because, and if you think about it, it's a correlation, so it's not causation. So if you think about a family that thinks it's important to eat together, probably is going to be the same kind of person that thinks it's better to eat vegetables and stuff with dinner. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, eating disorders. The risk factors for girls uh, who reach puberty early, they're very dissatisfied with the body image. They grow up in homes with weight or thinness concerns. The three most serious eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating. Whoops, daisy, binge eating disorder. Anorexia, you're starving yourself, right? You have an extremely distorted body image, so you lose 25 to 50% of your body weight. And as a result of their denial, because of that distorted body image, right? They see themselves as overweight. They don't want to be treated. So it's very difficult to treat. It leads to severe malnutrition, physical complications, even death. Influences beyond cultural values are genetics. We see these with abnormalities in neurotransmitters, specifically ones that are working with the hypothalamus that regulate feeding behavior. Parenting styles. So if the parents are controlling or if they have high expectations for their child's appearance, if the child has unrealistic perfectionist standards for themselves, and even ethnicity, we see this more often in um, European American or white girls in America. Effective treatments include family therapy, medication to reduce anxiety, and neurotransmitter imbalances. So that's starving yourself. Bulimia is where you are eating, but then you're purging, right? So it's a binge that's followed by compensatory efforts to avoid the weight gain. You could vomit, you could poop it out with laxatives, you could exercise excessively, or you could stop eating after you eat. These individuals will experience depression, guilt for the eating, and suicidal thoughts. Influences beyond the cultural values again include heredity, overweight, meaning people who are overweight or have experienced early menarche, people who are impulsive, they are sensation seeking, um, parents who have parents who are disengaged. These individuals are easier to treat since they usually want help, the right kind of help. Binge eating disorder is like bulimia, but without the compensatory mechanisms of starving or fasting or dieting, you know what I mean, purging or exercising. So this will typically lead the individual to be overweight and obese. They will experience severe distress and suicidal thoughts. It's associated with social adjustment difficulties, so they don't have many friends or they're picked on. Effective treatments resemble those for bulimia. In addition, they'll have support groups, nutrition education, tr- feeding behavior training, and then possibly medications like anti anxiety, antidepressants, or appetite control medications. Does anybody have any questions so far? None? Okay. Adolescent sexuality. Hormonal changes lead to an increased sex drive. North American attitudes are relatively restrictive, which is weird because if you look at our media, our culture, they contradict what we what our values are culturally. We are culturally prude in comparison to other Western civilized European countries, right? So these influences of the sexualized media, right, that we are exposed to, the more we are exposed to it, predicts increased sexual activity. Internet pornography can lead to adjustment problems. Uh, the attitudes of US adolescents and adults toward non marital sex, however, has become more accepting, and a substantial percentage of US teenagers are sexually active. So when they ask them, at 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, you can see the older you get, the more you're having sex, right? So the in every case, boys report more having had at least one case of sexual intercourse. And so what that ultimately means is that there are many reasons for this, right? There are many causes for this. It's because uh, boys have a higher sex drive, and so when you have girls who are willing to have sex, they're willing to have sex with. Not always. Hear me out. Hear me out. Let me finish before I get this. Okay. Uh, they're sometimes they're willing to have sex with different individuals, not at the same time. Doesn't mean it's not serial monogamy like a boyfriend. Then you break up another boyfriend, something like that. It's just that girls who decide not to have sex, who really decide to wait, they're more restrictive when it comes to it. So also, boys are having sex with different aged individuals, right? So a 15-year-old boy is probably going to have sex with, an older girl because there's going to be more interest as the girl gets older, right? Also, boys are having more sex with other boys, right? Girls, there's a higher rate of um, gay males than there are lesbian women. Characteristics. So there's just more opportunities. Okay. Let's see. Characteristics of adolescents who engage in early sexual activity. So when it comes to personal characteristics, these are the ones who engage in early sexual activity. They hit puberty early. When they were children, they were impulsive. They have a weak sense of control over life events. What are some family characteristics? Um, the family's economically disadvantaged, or maybe it's an economically disadvantaged neighborhood. There's maybe divorce, or they have a step family, or there's a single parent, or even a large family where they're busy with others. That could lead to weak parental monitoring. There could be disrupted parent child communication. So, what about peer or friend characteristics? Having sexually active friends and older siblings will increase the odds. Having friends who drink alcohol or use drugs or who are delinquent. Um, some educational characteristics. They have poor school performance. They have lower educational aspirations. Now, when it comes to contraceptive use, 14% of US sexually active teenagers do not use contraception consistently. Why? Because of peer pressure. Come on, baby, we don't need to use a condom, right? Or don't worry, something. I'll pull out. Or and it's also friends too. Haven't you had sex yet? Right? And so okay, right? And the heightened emotions, you get caught in the mood. They're unrealistic about the consequences. I'm not going to catch anything. I'm not going to get pregnant. They don't know where to get or how to discuss with their partner the use of a condom or other contraceptives. So some challenges, right? Uh, if you believe that the parents are not supportive, if the school sex education offers incomplete information, if your family doctor, if you think that the doctor's not going to keep you the secret, like if you go to the doctor, like, doctor, I need the pill, right? If you think the doctor's going to tell mom and dad, maybe you won't do it. Sexual orientation, 5% identify as of adolescents and adults. It's on average 5% identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and 2 to 3% will report that they're not sure. What could be the impacts? Heritable or heredity impacts. Male homosexuality may be X-linked. Uh, Prenatal sex hormones modify brain structures. So females in the womb are exposed to higher than normal levels of androgens, are more likely to identify as lesbian uh, later on because it's a masculinizing hormone. It masculinizes the brain. So they become what's called gynophilic. And so males who are exposed to a lower than average sampling of testosterone or other androgens and estrogen too, by the way, that works too. Um, they will not masculinize the brain, so they're more likely to identify as homosexual or gay, and they would be called androphilic. Gay men often have a later birth order and a greater number of brothers. So the later you are in birth order, and the more brothers you have before you, there is an increase. I think it's called the brother effect. There's an increased likelihood of identifying as a homosexual, which is funny because, and I'm not making a joke out of this at all, but my mother and father had 5 boys: Jesse, Joey, Jared, Jacob, John. And so when we learned this, we thought for sure, well, John's going to be gay. We thought for sure. And we held out, and now he's heterosexual as far as I know. I mean, he says he is, and he acts like he is. So I guess he is. Um, Lesbian, gay, and bisexual youths coming out to oneself and to others. Most start to feel a little different between the ages of 6 and 12. They'll choose different activities. They might be a little confused around early adolescence. They realize that they're attracted to the same sex. That could cause some inner struggle, maybe some isolation, maybe some risky behaviors. They may choose to still act heterosexual and date opposite sex individuals. Then eventually, hopefully, they become more self accepting by the end of adolescence. But do they tell others? Well, they'll tell their friends at first. And then if they want to actually, you know, be with someone, they have to eventually, they're like, all right, tell mom and dad, I guess. Right. So that leads to telling the parents. If the parents are understanding, that is the key predictor just to for adjustment, for, psychological well being. Having a supportive community is easier to find in larger cities, not in a bucolic country setting such as ours. Any questions? No? Okay, good. Sexually transmitted infections. The rates are rising. It affects on average 20% of sexually active teens. Females are more easily infected. Oral sex is an underestimated mode of transmission. At the greatest risk are those who are lower socioeconomic status teenagers who also feel a sense of hopelessness. STIs can lead to sterility. You can't make the babies, right? And also life threatening complications. AIDS is the most serious, where they're often infected during adolescence. Teenagers are often poorly informed about STIs and how to protect themselves. Number one is to wear a condom. Wear a condom. adolescent pregnancy and parenthood. About 625,000 US teenage pregnancies in the most recently reported year. Of those 625,000, 11,000 are younger than the age of 15. 1 in 4, so 1/4 of the 625,000 ends in abortion. And of the other 3/4 that don't, 89% of the births are to unmarried mothers. Questions? No. Is this boring, you guys? Are you bored? You don't look really bored. Uden doesn't look really thrilled, but doesn't look bored either. I don't know. But if we look at the birth rates among 15 to 19-year-olds in 15 industrialized nations, only Romania is slightly ahead of us. Wild, huh? Switzerland, man.
You would think that the US would be like the top one.
Well, that's what's so messed up. The top one. Oh, the top one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's weird is because we don't actually, our culture, even though we sexualize cheddar cheese, I mean, we sexualize everything. But when we say, oh, no, 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 that is not appropriate. That's just not, we just don't do that. But everything on TV, everything in the movies is all, you know what I watched the other day? I watched a movie from 1988, 85, 84. I don't know, 80 something. And it was called Life Force. Okay, got 4.5 stars on Amazon, right? I got Amazon Prime, whatever. So I'm like, okay, it's an 80s movie. That's my jam. I was born, late 70s. My youth was in the 80s. So I'm like, all right, that's my jam. Spaceships, vampires. All right, I'm into that too. Let's watch it. So much, so much breast, so much pubic hair. Like it is like naked people. Like, but you know what's funny though? They did not show the wang, but they showed a full frontal nude of the female many, many times. Many, many times. But for the male, from the waist up, interesting, huh? You would think they would, I don't know, they're going to show a female. I don't know.
You
But,
couldn't see anything through all the hair, though, could you?
well, see, that's the other
That was
thing,
the
too.
80s.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So if you look at a female's genitalia, external genitalia, it's not nearly as pronounced as a male's, right? You could see something. So you're right. There's truth to that. Okay. Factors associated with adolescent parenthood. All right. So let's see. What is correlated? What is associated with teens getting pregnant? Having low parental warmth or neglect or abuse from your parents. Your parents getting repeatedly divorced. Um, not doing well in school. Abusing alcohol or other drugs. Um, being aggressive or antisocial. Living in neighborhoods with deviant friends. And then lastly, not doing so well financially. Some risks for teenage mothers and babies. Um, Teenage mothers, they they don't go very far educationally often. They don't go very far occupationally. Uh, they spend more time as a single parent because of an absent father. They tend to have an increased likelihood of more pregnancies. There's going to be financial difficulties. There could be pregnancy and birth complications. And because of their age, they have weak parenting skills. So they can often be harsh and abusive, dismissive to their babies. You know what one benefit to having a child early is, though? I mentioned it. Trish is like, you get to live your own life. That's true. There's another benefit, though.
You can keep up with them more.
That's true. No, all of that is true. That is true. If you think about it, our species was designed to have babies earlier than 20. We were designed to have babies earlier than 20. So there are benefits. And women who have babies earlier are less likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer. Yeah, there you go. Enjoy that, Trish. I don't know what.
My My mom has the breast cancer gene. She's
Oh
currently
man.
round 2 of ovarian cancer, but I can honestly say that my sister also has the gene, but I have been tested and I do not carry the gene.
Good for you. Good.
So I don't know if it skipped me
Well,
or
you're doubly covered now because you don't have the gene and you had your babies early.
and I'm the only sister who has female children. My sister only has boys. So she can pass the gene on if she had a daughter, but my daughter is just as much
Oh,
at
good
risk as
point.
anyone else.
Oh, good point. Oh, that's so sad though.
Yeah.
Because couldn't the boys pass that on then?
I don't know.
Is it, well, maybe it's, if it's X-linked, then, well, no, then they're carrying an X. I don't know either. I'm not a geneticist. Teenage pregnancy prevention, more effective sex education, teaching them skills on handling sexual situations, right? Come on, baby. You know, something. No, get off me. I said no. No means no, right? But you know what else means? And we talked about this before. I don't like the no means no. I don't like that. You know why? Why don't I like that? Someone tell me. Why does no mean no? No means no not work?
Because people don't listen.
No, that's not why. Yeah. Because they surveyed, they asked women, they asked men. They say, "What when you say no, how often do you mean it?" And women said, "Not all the time." And when they asked the men, they said, "Not all the time." And I don't want to give you the actual number because I don't remember it, but I wanted to say I believe that it's at least 25% of the time women said they meant it. Or I'm sorry, 25% of the time they said they didn't mean it. It's something like it's higher than you would expect. So what we should teach is yes means yes. Get confirmation, not no means no. Get yes means yes. Do you want to? If they say no, that's it. You're done. But if they say nothing, I'm teaching my sons and my daughters, if you don't say yes, then that's a no. The absence of a yes is a no. Period. They have to say yes. That's what it should be. Trish.
No, I just when you do orientation at the college, they showed you that cup of tea video. Have you seen it?
Oh yes. I've seen it too many times.
It's funny, but not funny.
It is a funny way to go about it. Yes. It's a very, sensitive, emotional, traumatic for some, who have gone, have experienced these sort of things. So they're trying to make light of it, I think, in some way. Yeah. But yeah. So you can't give someone who's drunk a cup of tea. Someone who can't say yes, right? A cup of tea is just gonna
Yeah, but that's what it basically said.
Yeah.
If they didn't say yes,
Correct.
it's a no.
Right. That's right.
It
Jake.
was similar to me too when when I was working a while ago, like seasonal job, they would make us do like sexual education training, like
Sorry. Go ahead.
and like how to behave in like the workplace. And their education was literally a bunch of clips on TV.
Yeah.
They would ask you to say like of like stuff you watch every day, and they'd be like, do you notice this? Do you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Was it?
a lot of people didn't even notice it.
I was just gonna say. I bet it was very like difficult to pick up on for some. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have you seen the New York State sexual harassment video that you have? Like, it's mandatory for workplaces to make you watch.
Yeah.
No.
It's horrible. It is the worst thing in the entire world. And if you've watched it once, you've watched it 100 times, but workplaces have to make you view it like once every year. And it is like god awful. The woman is so dry. Horrible.
Okay. All right.
She talks like this very slowly and with a deep, raspy voice.
Well, that
The
could
entire time.
that could be something for someone. You don't know. We have different tastes. All right. We could provide again to prevent teen pregnancies, provide information on and give access to contraceptives. We could build academic and social competence. We could expand educational, vocational, and employment opportunities. Let's see. So intervention for adolescent parents. So now they're already parents. What can we do? Provide health care, provide help staying in school, provide job and life management training, provide parenting instruction, provide adult mentors, social support, provide affordable child care, and provide father support. It's it's getting the father back into. You don't just go find a father. What are you laughing at? Someone gonna come in and just be someone baby daddy? Is that what you're laughing at? Okay.
You know, the only reason I graduated from high school? Because I had my daughter when I was 15.
Okay.
They had a daycare on campus.
Mm,
She rode the school bus with me in the
wow.
morning. No car seat, no nothing. Got to school, dropped her off at the daycare. My lunch, half hour that all the other students went off campus, went outside to smoke, whatever you do on lunch during high school. I was required to be in the nursery and feeding her lunch. They didn't feed her. I had to.
Wow.
But I got my education.
See, there it is. Provide affordable health care.
I knew somebody in high school or in middle school that she like at my school they didn't because I went to a private school they weren't required by
Spit
law
it out, Jacob.
they weren't required by law to teach us about like sexual education,
Oh,
and so she had gone to my school for a long time, and before that she had gone to Saranac, and they didn't start teaching out until like middle school. So she went back to Saranac, and within a year she had a baby, left high school, and got her GED.
okay. That's. I'm not sure what to make of that story.
Nothing wrong with the GED.
No, there isn't.
GED is still your education.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's good that she.
It was a positive ending, I think, is what he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know what to make of the story. Like, she was private school, then as soon as she got to public school, she got pregnant. Like, is that what you're saying? Like, there was no sex education, and then she went to a public school, and then she got pregnant. I don't know. That's what I got. All right, doesn't matter. All right, adolescent substance use and abuse. There are some severe concerns. One-time heavy use impairs judgment. Now you have injury risks and even death. Some substances have like incredible addiction liability. By the end of high school, 6% of the students regularly smoke, 17% report recent heavy drinking, 21% have tried the, the marijuana, and then 21% have used a highly addictive toxic drug. Now, I know we've probably talked about this, but I'm glad that marijuana is legal and I'm glad that it's recreational and all that stuff, but adolescents shouldn't be using it. They're still developing in the brain. Substance use versus abuse. There's the occasional experimenters. They are psychologically healthy, they're sociable, they're curious. Then there are the abusers. They're impulsive. They're also possibly hostile in early childhood. They'll start taking the drugs earlier. They are typically from a lower socioeconomic status. They have a history of family mental health problems or a family history of substance abuse. Maybe they were abused themselves as children. They often have poor school performance and they have weak cognitive control and have a higher than normal level of sensation seeking. I don't care about this. Substance use prevention and treatment. Good school and community programs promote effective parenting, teach skills to resist peer pressure, and reduce social acceptability of drugs. We can teach effective strategies for coping with stress that doesn't involve, you know, token up. We can provide academic and vocational training. We can provide gradual improvements to boost their self efficacy. Self efficacy means like self effectiveness, like I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and God darn it, people like me. Um, we can provide family and individual therapy to treat drug abuse. All right, so we're skipping this now and this. So Now we're going right to the cognitive development, okay? And Piaget's theory is that the stages, right? The pre-operational, then there's the no, it's the sensor motor, then the pre-operational, then the concrete operational, and then the adult-like formal operational stage. So school-age children show glimmerings of formal operational thought. It's all about being able to think abstractly. So in simplified situations with props, they can develop make-believe play. Adolescents are considerably more competent. They can reason about more variables simultaneously, and they can grasp the idea that logic is necessary in order to come to a conclusion. Formal operations may not be universal, but the training and context will contribute. And of course, our schooling is going to be incredibly influential in our abilities to think abstractly. We do see some information processing gains in our working memory, which is right now, this is working memory, short-term memory, solving problems, our ability to inhibit our impulsive drives. Um, let's see, we can focus on things better. We can keep to task. We can make plans. We can develop strategies. We can acquire knowledge. We can self-regulate ourselves cognitively. And then metacognition is just the idea of thinking about thinking, our awareness of thought. So we develop scientific reasoning. We will coordinate the theory with evidence. Some contributing factors to scientific reasoning is our working memory abilities, the capacity for it, our exposure to more and more complex problems in school and out of school. And then there's that thinking about thinking understanding. Adolescents and adults vary widely in their skills, though, but over time, the separate skills combine into smoothly functioning system. So the consequences of adolescent cognitive changes, we become more self-conscious, more self-focused. You know what I'm talking about. You slip and fall. You maybe you're walking and you trip on your own foot and you're still making it, but you like stumble a little bit. You imagine that everyone's noticed that. It's that spotlight effect, right? The personal fable, the idea that anything that happens, everybody noticed. Why is that funny, Trish?
I'll be 43 this year. That still happens to me.
Yeah,
Me too.
but didn't it really like start during adolescence though? Didn't you think that everybody saw that one for sure? No?
I almost feel like it's worse now.
Really? Oh.
I feel like nursing school perpetuates that.
No, it was before that.
Yeah, but nursing school could perpetuate it though, meaning maintain it.
I think what I meant to say before was like if they had that program in high school, the girl I knew probably would have stayed in school instead of getting her GED. The one that
Oh. Is this the whole Trish following the Trish story? Because she had that program, the daycare. Oh, okay. All right. That's an important piece, I think. But I didn't make that connection. I should have made that connection on my own. All right, when it comes to we are more, yeah, I know, moving on, right? We are more critical, right? We want to be perfect, right? So if anything, we're afraid of criticism, right? Um, Decision making, we seek immediate rewards. This will enable us, this will cause us to become more risk taking. We do not evaluate options. We fall back on learned judgments. What about mental abilities and some sex differences? Girls will typically do better when it comes to verbal skills. There's earlier development of the left hemisphere, which is where language comprehension is. Uh, they seek more verbal stimulation. The language arts are considered feminine. Boys are poorer in writing. Math, boys typically do better on tests of complex reasoning. They're advantaged in numerical memory and spatial reasoning. And math is often considered a masculine topic or study. And this is partly due to parental bias. Boys will also acquire more specialized computer knowledge. So if you look when, different industrialized nations, these are 9 different ones, they're arranged in order of increasing gender equality. So the least gender equality when it comes to would this be math achievement. Okay, boys are outperforming girls in Korea and Italy, but then you get down to Iceland, the girls are outperforming the boys. So that's definitely a cultural influence. All right. Sex differences and spatial abilities. The gender gap is favoring males. Uh, the mental rotation tasks. We see a large difference, and I'll show you the next slide what that looks like. Spatial perception tasks. There's a considerable difference, and then the spatial visualization tasks, weak or no difference at all. The male spatial advantage is present throughout life. Some contributing factors could be you inherited it, right? But we don't really know. Think of evolution, not for nothing. Evolution. Our ancestors would want our males, the males of our species who are the hunters, to be able to like see things like a plane, not like not a flying one, but like a land, and they'd want to know, okay, there's the prey. If I walk around that obstacle, that tree, that bush, that rock, that thing, they want to be able to visualize what their terrain is going to be, right? So it makes sense that we'd want to evolve to have that ability. Um, so experience is also going to be a contributing factor. Just think sports, right? Video games. These are a lot of them are geared towards males. Um, Adult encouragement, again, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Early intensive training can override these sex differences. So here's like a mental rotation task, right? They say choose the response that shows the standard in a different orientation. They're saying pick one, two, three, or four that is the same object, but it's been turned, is the idea. Okay. Spatial perception, select the bottle with a horizontal water line. Okay, which one's going, horizontal. Spatial visualization, find the six-sided polygon in each of these complex figures. These do seem simple, I know, but okay. School transitions, right? So grades decline. Our performance declines with each transition, right? So what could cause this? Higher academic standards. So every time you go up to, when you moved from, remember when you went from fifth grade to sixth grade, you went to a different school and you had lockers all of a sudden? Or third to fourth and you had lockers. So all these different things they're teaching you over time, where you used to have a homeroom and you were there the whole time, and now you're in sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. Now you have to go from room to room to room to room, right? So there's less supportive teaching learning environment for ethnic minorities. There are fewer same ethnicity peers. There's a decline in liking for school, a decline in academic motivation, a decline in self-esteem. Additional strains will increase the risk for self-esteem and academic difficulties, such as poverty, family disruption. So how do we help adolescents adjust to these school transitions? Having parents be more involved in monitoring their children's academics, have the children having close friends, having fewer transitions. Don't go from 1 to 5 in one building to 6, 7, and 8 in another, and then 9 through 12. Maybe have a K through 8 and then a 9 through 12. Okay. Smaller units within schools, having the same ethnicity peers, having a homeroom teacher relationship, a good rapport. Um, if the classes that you're taking are with familiar peers or a constant group of new peers. So at what age and at what kind of characteristics or what kind of source can we support academic achievement? So when it comes to raising a child, make sure that you're authoritative, right? High in warmth, moderate in control, right? Have this joint decision making. What do you think we should do? How do you think we should do this? Having the parents involved in education, the friends or the peer influences. If the friends value high achievement, chances are that you're going to value high achievement. If the friends are doing drugs, chances are your kid's doing drugs. So always, if you want to know what your kids are up to, find out what the friends are up to. The school's characteristics, having warm personal teaching, having learning activities that promote higher level thinking and opportunities to break out of low academic tracks. Meaning if you have, the honors class and the regular, and if you are like the high needs or whatever, that kind of thing, have opportunities to get out of those low academic tracks. And then lastly, the employment schedule. So if someone's working in high school, limit the hours that they're working. Right? Have high quality vocational education. Okay. Media multitasking, basically trying to do two things at once, you're not going to learn as well. That's basically all that. we're distracted, we learn less thoroughly. So some factors related to dropping out. That's just obvious, right? They're basically saying don't try to listen to music and do your homework or try to study. It's not going to work. I know some of you are like, I have to have some. Fine, then you're not really listening to music. Factors related to dropping out. Low grades, that's an obvious one. Low academic self-esteem, if you just don't think that you're cut out for it. Having a lower attendance, if you're paying less attention. Extracurricular involvement, that helps so much because you have a reason to pass the class so you can still play soccer or baseball or hockey or whatever it is. You're going to work harder to make sure you can still play that sport, still be in the play, that kind of thing. If the parents are uninvolved and if even if their education is limited, that's going to be a factor related to dropping out. Grade retention, if you're staying in the same grade, if you're repeating, okay, having large class sizes, by that I mean like your whole grade, impersonal schools. If you are victimized, right, constantly, your friends and you are picked on. And then lastly, those who lack a general education or vocational tracks. I guess what we should know here is that in all cases, the males out are higher, more likely to drop out than the females. And it's highest for males, for Hispanic males, and highest for females who are Native American. So how do we prevent dropout? Intensive remedial instruction, personalized counseling, again, high quality vocational education. Give them something to like, okay, we're gonna learn about what's that, HVAC, right? Heating, ventilation, air and cooling, whatever it's called, right? We're gonna really learn how to install air conditioning, really how to install a heating unit. So when you leave high school with your, your diploma, you can go right to work and it's gonna be great. You're gonna make good money and all that stuff, right? If you can address personal factors that are related to the dropout, like getting the parents more involved, or again, that flexible work study arrangement. And then lastly, get them involved in something outside of the history and the science and the English and the math class. Okay, we did it. I'm going to stop recording. There is no lecture on Friday, but you will still have